Welcome to From the South. I'm Janet. It's a pleasure. Let's begin. In Costa Rica, social protests continue for the ninth consecutive day against the government's intention to reach an agreement with the International Monetary Fund. Fighting between Armenian and Azerbaijan forces over the disputed Nagorno-Karabakh region continued Thursday. Protests in many Indonesian cities turned violent as thousands of students and workers criticized a recently approved law. Let's begin. In Costa Rica, social protests continue for the ninth consecutive day against the government's intentions to reach an agreement with the International Monetary Fund. The Movement Rescate National will maintain this Thursday the roadblocks in the country. Activists say that the protests will continue until the government abandons its interest in getting a credit plan with the IMF. In this context, the National Executive conditioned the beginning of the talks to the ceasing of demonstrations. In response, the mobilized sectors called for a peaceful rally next Monday to condemn the government's economic policy. We go now to Bolivia. Our correspondent Camila Escalante has the latest details on the current situation in the South American country ahead of the October 18 general elections. Camila.
In 2020, Bolivia's regime has spent 18 times the amount spent on non-military weapons in 2019. According to figures from the National Institute of Statistics, spending went from 850,000 to over 15 million in weapons for police. And we're just in early October. In 2018, total spending on weapons was only 489,000. Coup Minister Arturo Murillo has said that the purchases are to defend democracy. The largest expenditure was in March, when just as the coronavirus was arriving here in South America, the regime spent 10.6 million importing weapons rather than preparing the public health system. To this day, COVID-19 testing virtually doesn't exist. Añez's minister, Arturo Murillo, returned from the United States this week, where he said he was dealing with issues of state security in meetings with Washington. Former Foreign Minister Diego Perry was among many who have questioned the Interior Minister and asked why it is that he, who deals with domestic issues of Bolivia, was in a week of meetings with the White House and the OAS and not the Foreign Affairs Ministry. Murillo has been on television saying that anyone who wants to convulse the country should worry.
Thank you, Camila. And the Cuban government will inform the people on Thursday about major current domestic issues, Granma newspaper reported. The program will be broadcast on national radio and television. The Political Bureau of the Communist Party of Cuba met on October 6th and 7th under the presidency of its first secretary, Army General Raúl Castro. The meeting debated several laws that will be submitted for the approval of the National People's Power Assembly, whose ordinary session is scheduled for October 28. The Cuban Parliament will vote on the law on the President and Vice President of the Republic and the law of the revocation of those elected to the People's Power bodies. Lawmakers will also discuss the law on the organization and functions of the provincial power government, as well as the municipal administration councils. The meeting also assists the preparations for the Congress of the Communist Party of Cuba in 2021. With its candidacy to the United Nations Human Rights Council, Cuba seeks to strengthen the cooperative approach. Cuba's alternate permanent representative to the United Nations, Ana Silvia Rodriguez, posted Thursday this statement on her Twitter account and shared a picture with data on the Iceland works in that subject. The computer graphic offered details of Cuba's achievements in gender equality and women's empowerment, the right to equality and fight against discrimination, the promotion and protection of the right of children and teenagers, and the right to health and medical cooperation, among others. According to the Havana-based Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Cuba is founded member of the United Nations Human Rights Council and performs an agreement with developing countries, defends the voice of the South and the North alignment. In February 2020, Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez announced in Geneva the Caribbean country candidacy to join that body in the period of 2021 and 2023. During his speech at the high-level segment of the 43rd section of the Council, Rodriguez reiterated Cuba's support for the body made up of 47 member states, which are elected by the General Assembly. Mexico's Senate Wednesday approved a referendum request by President Andrés Manuel López Obrador for citizens to decide whether or not to prosecute 5 former presidents who incurred in acts of corruption. The referendum was approved by 65 votes in favor from the National Regeneration Movement Party, Morena, and its allies, 49 against from the National Action Party and the Institutional Revolutionary Party, and 1 abstention. After being approved by the Supreme Court and the Senate, the referendum needs to be approved by the lower house, where an approval is expected because Morena has most of the seats. Morena Senator Martí Batres stated this decision is a historic landmark that ends an era of abuse, corruption, and repression. It's time for a break. Follow us on Twitter. Be right back. Welcome back. World's leading medical journal, New England Journal of Medicine, posted an editorial blasting the failures of the Trump administration on the coronavirus. The article, "Dying in a Leadership Vacuum," calls on Americans to vote the current administration out in November. The editors write that the U.S. has failed a crucial test of leadership during the pandemic, saying the magnitude of this failure is astonishing. They also found inconsistent and too late lockdown measures after the disease had spread in many communities. The New England Journal of Medicine is considered one of the most prestigious scientific medical journals in the world, said Gary Richwell, a disease expert based in Los Angeles, regarding the significance of this article. Let's hear.
When we have a situation where masks work, social distancing works, quarantine and isolation work, and yet we have a president who is questioning and in some sense transferring facts, those are facts, into opinions, and then those opinions get, you're on either one side of the opinion or the other. This makes it very difficult to conduct healthcare. I mean, it's bad enough when people read things on the internet that are wrong and doctors have to spend time sort of addressing those issues. I think that's what's expected. But having that level of misinformation coming from the top, from the president and from all of his minions, I think that is a way more than most doctors can handle.
Fighting between Armenian and Azerbaijan forces over the disputed Nagorno-Karabakh region continued Thursday, with increased shelling in the province capital ahead of a first meeting of international mediators in Geneva. Defense officials in Azerbaijan and Armenia said fighting continued, with both sides claiming to have inflicted heavy loss and accusing the other of shelling civil areas. Alongside the new bombardments in Stepanakert, Azerbaijan said Armenian shelling on several villages near to the front line had left people dead and wounded. According to Armenian authorities, the renewed fighting has displaced around half of Karabakh, 140,000 residents, and forced some 90% of its women and children from their homes. On Thursday, the German Health Minister Jens Spahn said that the nation is experiencing a worrying jump in coronavirus cases as the number of the new daily infections soared past 4,004 the first time since early April. The alarming jump in cases came with autumn school holidays on their way of starting across Germany. Places where new infections top 50,000 people over the last 7 days are classed as high-risk zones. Local authorities are required to take specific measures to halt contagion. To date, the European nation has confirmed over 311,000 COVID-19 cases and more than 9,600 deaths.
I'm very concerned about the current situation. We do not know how the situation in Germany will develop in the coming weeks. It is possible that we will see more than 10,000 cases a day. It is possible that the virus will uncontrollably spread.
The government of Spain announced the creation of the Recovery, Transformation and Resilience Plan, taking advantage of the rescue package provided by the European Union. The intention is to reactivate the economy with strong public investment. Our correspondent Adriana Cardoso brings us the details in the following report.
The government has announced an economic recovery plan focused especially on green investment and digital transition, with the 140 billion euros that Spain will receive from the European Union. Half of it, 72 billion euros, will be invested between 2021 and 2023.
The executive will concentrate the efforts on resource mobilization, especially in the first 3 years, to accelerate the reactivation of our economy and the modernization of our country.
The government seems focused on avoiding the austerity policies of past crises. Therefore, this plan includes a strong public investment that generates economic growth.
We want to promote an additional growth on our gross domestic product of more than 2.5 percentage points over the next 3 years, and we want to create more than 800,000 jobs over the next 3 years.
The government has pointed out this time that Europe has lived up to what the crisis demands. The Union has allowed for the suspension of fiscal rules on the path to stability until 2022. For this reason, the Council of Ministers has approved a historic increase in the spending ceiling to 53%, although the government points out that economic policies must continue to be sensible and responsible.
It does not mean in any way that this government will abandon the principle of budget stability, and I'm going to be quite clear. The fiscal rules are suspended by the social responsibility of the government, and the whole of the public administration is not suspended.
It's a plan that pretends to show the unity of the government of coalition while coming out of the crisis guided by an increase in public expenditure. In order for the plan to go into effect, the government still needs the approval of the new general state budget, which will be discussed starting next week.
Adriana Cardoso y Edu Marín, TeleSUR, Madrid.
On Thursday, the jury at the Swedish Academy awarded the Nobel Literature Prize to U.S. poet Louise Gluck, honoring a writer known for subjects of childhood and family life. The academic said that Gluck was honored for her unmistakable poetic voice that with beauty makes individual existence universal. Louise was previously won the Pulitzer Prize in 1993 for her collection The Wild Iris and the National Book Award in 2014. The 2020 Nobel Prize winner is a professor at the English in the Yale University. Her collection, Averno, is considered a masterly collection, a visionary interpretation of the myth of Persephone's descent into hell. Shanghai in Eastern China is currently getting ready to host the third China International Import Expo to be held in November. This expo is considered as another door to domestic market. Organizers are working on expanding the exhibition area to 360,000 square meters, where international firms will be installed, while local custom just has begun to receive goods and products to be exhibited. Plus, organizers are also working on security issues in order to avoid or detect any COVID-19 cases in time. We have more news coming up after one last break, so stay with us. Welcome back in from the south. The rape and murder in Argelia of a 19-year-old woman sparked cries for action on gender based on violence in the North African country and calls to bring back the death penalty. The body of a young woman identified as Chaima was found in early October at a diesel petrol station in Thenia, 50 miles from the capital. According to local media, she has been beaten, raped, and burned alive. The suspect, who has reportedly confessed, is being charged with rape and voluntary homicide with premeditation and ambush using torture. The man was close to the family. The young woman had previously pressed rape charges in 2016 against him. Protests in many Indonesian cities turned violent Thursday as thousands of students and workers criticized a new law they said will cripple labor rights and harm the environment. Clashes between rocks-throwing demonstration and riot police broke out near Jakarta's presidential palace as police tried to disperse the protesters, including workers and high school and university students. President Joko Widodo is visiting central Kalimantan province and was not in the palace. Police fired tear gas at the protesters from several high schools and universities as they tried to approach the palace compound, turning roads into a smoke-filled battleground. The protesters fought back, hurling rocks and bottles. On Thursday, Kuwait's new crown prince, Sheikh Meshal Al-Ahmad Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, took his oath of office before parliament after being nominated by his half-brother, the new emir. 80 years old Sheikh Meshal was approached by a national assembly. The new crown prince swore to defend the liberties, interests, and properties of the people and to safeguard the country's independence and integrity. Sheikh Meshal has been deputy chief of the Kuwait National Guard since 2004, largely staying out of the political scenes and away from the royal family. His appointment, rather than the selection of a next-generation candidate, is seen as a conservative choice that provides much-needed continuity. And the World Trade Organization said on Thursday South Korea Trade Minister and Harvard-trained former Nigerian Finance Minister have been qualified as the two finalists to become the next director of the General Geneva-based trade body, inserting a woman in the top job for the first time. World Trade Organization spokesman announced that the selection committee said Ngozi Onjoko-Iweala of Nigeria and Jo Myung-hee of South Korea qualified for the final round in the race expected to end in the coming weeks. This after meeting in recent weeks with 5 remaining candidates.
Both of the women that are in the final round are remarkably well qualified. This is something on which everyone has agreed. We've been impressed with them from the very beginning. They are people with long experience dealing with tricky issues like these. And I think you'll see how important having a Director General is. There are a number of issues that can come to a head in December, for example, including the fishery subsidies talks that you've mentioned, very active discussions going on in some plurilaterals, including domestic regulation of services, investment facilitation. There are ongoing discussions about all kinds of reforms. There are discussions ongoing pertaining to the WTO's response to the COVID pandemic. All of these issues are of critical importance, and it's clear that whichever woman assumes this job will have a very full plate from day one.
Time to speak about sport. Spain's first game of this October international break drew up a scoreless draw with its neighbors Portugal at Sporting CP's Estadio José Albalade on Wednesday evening. Luis Enrique's sides dominated the ball but didn't manage to carve out quite as many chances as their coach would have liked to see. As a result, failed to score in a game for the first time since losing 2-0 to Italy at the 2016 European Championship in France. Despite having less of the possession, Portugal had some big chance to win the game, hitting the bar twice and seeing Joao Felix miss an opportunity from right in front of the goal in the dying minutes of the game. Sergio Ramos and Cristiano Ronaldo had not seen or spoke to each other for 2 years. After the match, Ramos went to Portugal dressing room and got a signed shirt from Ronaldo. Cristiano wrote, "From my friend Sergio, all my love." Ramos himself posted the photo on social media with the following message: "We are still around and there is more to come. Happy to see you, my friend." In other subject, 53 years after Che's assassination in Bolivia, the traveling exhibit Che Fotógrafo will be put on the display this Thursday. The work made by Ernesto Guevara portrays the revolutionary fighter in all of his different aspects as a human being, as leader, as doctor, and a revolutionary who became a world symbol of social struggles for justice and internationalism. The Cuban Ministry of Culture and the National Council of Art organized this exhibit. It will be on display at Santa Clara's Provincial Library. We have come to the end of this news brief. In honor to the heroic commander Ernesto Che Guevara, we invite you to listen with us the song Los Sueños Todavía by the Cuban songwriter Gerardo Alfonso. Remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For TeleSUR English, thank you for watching.
Tú subías desde el cono sur y venías desde antes con el amor al mundo bien adentro. Fue una estrella quien te puso aquí y te hizo de este pueblo de gratitud. Nacieron muchos hombres que igual que tú no querían que te fueras y son otros desde entonces. Después de tanto tiempo y tanta tempestad, seguimos para siempre este camino largo, largo, por donde tú vas, por donde tú vas. El fin del siglo anuncia una vieja verdad. Los buenos y los malos tiempos hacen una parte de la realidad, de la realidad. Oh, oh. Yo sabía bien